We'll get started. Welcome to Wednesday Evening Encore. Hope everyone are doing well. Hope everyone are doing well. Price is a posture, not a number. How do you feel when you give your rates? When you tell folks your rates, do you whisper it? Um, do you feel like you have to do? They've already paid your rate, and you feel like you need to add some more to it to appear as if it's even adding additional value, and you're already giving all that you've got. It has extreme value already, but to validate your pricing, do you feel like you have to over deliver just simply to justify, your price, even when they've already accepted the price? You know, do you feel like your calendar is full, but your energy isn't? Well, this episode is for you, and it is. We're gonna talk about soft power pricing, how to raise your rates without raising eyebrows, and that's what our topic is about on this particular episode. So let's set the stage. If you walk into a room, and we're gonna target this to our women, our queens. If you walk into a room wearing a crown made of apology, and your price will bow before you do. But when your price sets up straight, the room adjusts, not with gas, but with respect. Are people respecting your price? That's what we're talking about. Pricing is a posture, not a number. So you have a soft power opportunity here with pricing. Pricing that sounds calm, sounds inevitable, and earns a quiet yes. Yet, what if the most polite sentence that's in your pitch, also becomes the most profitable one? So this is what we're going to talk about this particular episode. And we've named this particular episode Soft Power Pricing, raising your rates without raising your eyebrows. Now, let's talk about a little bit of some quiet pain. I spoke about it earlier as we were getting started. Have you ever felt like or had to discount for a good fit client and secretly resenting the project? Now, I'm saying that because I have done that in the past. Have you ever whispered your rate and you start to negotiate inside of yourself? If they say this is what I'm going to say. You know, I have done that. And I've been there. Absolutely, Rodney. Have you ever felt like you have to over deliver just simply to justify your own rate that they've already accepted? Have you ever felt like, okay, I'm calendar is full, but my energy isn't? That's because we don't feel good about the rates that we're charging. We know we're not charging enough. So let's peel back some layers a little bit. Many of the entrepreneurs that I meet, whether if it's in a workshop or if it's one-on-one sessions or they're taking on a complimentary 15-minute session that have I carve out, opportunity for 2 to 3 businesses per week, because I want to give them that direct touch. What I've learned is that many entrepreneurs, especially my woman-owned founders, they were trained to be pleasant. Yet the market pays precision. Soft power is not loud, it's decisive. So if you've ever added on any bonuses midway your call because your voice shook, So okay, maybe I need to add on a bonus because it's not going quite the way that I think it's going to go. Tonight, this particular episode, we're going to help straighten up your spine, because we're going to help you straighten up your spine of your appointment so that you can stand up straight when in your posture when you're presenting your price. Now, I want you to be able to save this live session because you're going to use some of these lines tomorrow. We're going to inject some information in here that you will be able to inject into your business and see and experience growth and transition into your business, into your formula absolutely immediately as soon as you're injected. So let's talk about more of the problem that I am seeing amongst especially our wonderful woman-owned founders and woman-owned brands. Your price is framed as a cost and not a gateway. Your price is framed as a cost and not a gateway, which makes you lead with the features, how many minutes they get, how many modules they get. It's the labor part of it. Now, the labor language that we all speak, and it's we all do it. It's not until we learn differently that we do differently. And so, this particular episode, you're going to learn differently and with the goal of doing differently. So, when you have that labor language, that invites what I'm going to call labor questions. You know, labor questions such as, well, how many calls do I get with you? What's included? Can you knock off 10%? You get that type of language. Meanwhile, you're carrying a second job, and we're going to call that job the explainer in chief. You're having to explain everything your service or your product is, and and what makes it so special, and someone asking for a discount, as well. If someone asks for a discount, and if they've never done any business with you, that's simply what I call disrespect. Anyway, friend, family, or foe, that's disrespect for you and for your particular business. So um, that is another topic for another time period. We'll get into that. However, let's talk about how we're going to increase some rates some more. So what I've created is a solution that I call the soft power pricing protocol. I want you to adopt this particular protocol. It's called the soft power pricing protocol. It's where you'll have a disciplined way to anchor your identity and your outcome first, and so that your pricing feels like it's a natural doorway and not a debate about um, about your particular product service that you are providing and helping humanity. Now, I'm going to tell you about a story of a client who we use the soft power pricing protocol. Her name is Aria. Aria is a wonderful photographer. She's actually a brand photographer. She was underpriced because she felt like she was still growing. And after consulting with her, we did not change her product. We didn't do anything with her lens. She's a creator. She's an artist. And the lens is part of how she captures the art. So we didn't do anything with that. The only thing that we did was reframe her language that she was putting out, that she was using on marketing material, website, social media, and her proposals, and etc. So we shifted, instead of a photo shoot, we shifted that language into more of using the words of a brand presence intensive. And so we reframed that particular language and stopped calling it a photo shoot. You would never imagine with that one simple reframe about how much it actually did, because it injected what we call soft power, soft power. And so instead of saying, "Oh, we put 2 hours of editing into it and you get 40 different edits," we stopped her. She stopped explaining it like that. And what we reframed that language to be what we called for her the executive image suite. The executive image suite. In the executive image suite. So we reframed that particular language. And as a result, what we were able to do for her, simply reframing some language, the names of her packages, which we'll talk about in just a moment, the names of her packages and everything else, and the services that she provides in her brand photography. We were able to shift her $1,400 package into a $2,400 package as an outcome. That's what she was able to turn that into. And the priority of what people expected in her window calendar exploded. It exploded. Now, the first two consults that she provided for her client, no one pushed back on any of the rates at all. One of them actually prepaid in full. It was the same area, same product, same services that she offered. She's a dynamic brand photographer, yet now she's standing different. Her posture is different simply because of a reframing and injecting some soft power, into her particular her messaging. And one of her clients quoted to her, "You sounded like someone I could trust my launch with." They felt like after sitting with her, they could trust their brand in her hands. And so with no complaints, without any boundaries, without any restraints, around it, they felt like they could trust their brand, their visual brand, as far as what they were looking to, their outcome. They they gain a lot of trust, in her, just simply by the reframing of her. So let's dig in more about that soft power pricing protocol. I'm going to break down that soft power pricing protocol is actually an acronym that I've made up. And we're going to talk about the what, the when, the why, and what to expect in this particular protocol. So the S in soft stands for setting the standard. We're setting the standard, setting the anchor, into your particular system. Now, establishing the category and a status before the numbers. And an example of that is we're going to use Aria, for example, as far as how we set her up. For instance, instead of presenting the 2 hour edit and the 40 different edits at the very end, it was reframed as this executive presence strategy is for founders entering premium rooms. See how that adds an additional amount of power, simply reframing the presentation of what people are getting. They're getting the same great product. We're not lowering the standards of the product. We're simply reframing and adding some power words in order to demand the rates, if not even increase the rates of what we are presenting. Getting compensated for what we're providing humanity in a way of one that we can celebrate at that particular point and not feel bad about, at the end, not feeling drudgery, not feeling burdened that now you have to provide this particular service at a rate so low that you're not even excited about it. So let's that if you've been feeling that, and if you're going through that, that is going to end on this particular evening, on this particular episode, because let's talk more about it. Now, when do you want to set the standard? You want to set the standard within the first 60 seconds of your interactions with that particular client. You want to do that early. You want to identify framing those raises to perceive the fit and price elasticity. So you want to have some flexibility within that. And when you inject all of that, you can expect fewer spec questions. Remember those questions that we talked about that makes you have to explain everything that you're going to provide for that particular client. You're going to have fewer of those type of questions, but you're going to receive more of, this is what I need. This is exactly what I need. All right. So the S in the soft power pricing protocol is set the standard. Now the O is that signifies outcome first framing. Outcome first framing. This is where you're going to lead with the outcome. Always lead with the outcome. When we're talking about the way there, that sounds like too much effort. It sounds like, it's a lot of work. So always lead with the outcome. The main obstacle that you're going to remove by them working with you. Now, you do that on your pre-pricing page, on your deck, on your call. Always lead with the outcome first. Allow that to be part of the reframe. Now, why does that work? Now, I've mentioned this before. The brain buys the bridge, not the planks. Now, the planks make up the bridge, but the people want to cross. They don't care about pretty much care about how you get them there. They don't care. They're not buying the planks. They're buying the bridge. The brain buys the bridge, not the planks. So that's why we have to keep in mind the outcome, the framing of it all. Now, when you do that, you can expect more people to say, when can we start? That's going to replace, okay, now what does that include? When you start hearing that, there's something that they're not getting where you're having to explain and follow this particular system, this particular protocol that I'm giving you, and it will clear all of that up. So now we've talked about set the standard, outcome first framing. Next in the soft power protocol is the F, and that stands for future paced boundaries. Future paced boundaries. Now, name your start window. Your office hours, your response time, how that rhythm goes. And you do that right before the price, right before you give the price, so that you're setting your boundaries. They understand what the boundaries are. They understand what the signal competences are as well. And what you can expect are clients that are going to respect you. Clients that are going to respect you. And fewer, oh, hey, I got a quick question. Hey, we could do that sometimes. However, we need to ensure that we respect the boundaries because, hey, I got a quick question that's taken away of what you're able to do for the team and for other clients and for your family, as well. So these are all things when injected the right way, it will get you will gain your time back. And our time is a gift. Our time is a gift, right? And we want to use our time very well. So all those little leaks, like, hey, I got a quick question, all of those things will be alleviated when we inject the future paced boundaries. So the S is set the standard, the O is outcome first framing, the F is future paced boundaries. Now the T is tiered naming. Now we're talking about, when we say tiered, T-I-E-R-E-D, tiered naming, we want to use names of tiers that leaves in mind outcome and also status. Many times we think about tiers, we often see, oh, this is the gold package, this is the silver package, this is the bronze package or the platinum package. We're not talking about naming our tiers after any type of metals, right? We're not talking about naming our tiers across any type of metals. We're talking about naming our tiers as one that is going to change the game. Change the game. It's going to give people the outcome and understand the status. We want to use words such as signature. We want to use words such as priority. We want to use words as intensive or residency. We want to use, and that's going to help us to be able to adjust our pricing, with it all, as well. Now, why does that work? I'm always going to share with you. If I share with you what to do, and what to do and when to do it, I'm always going to tell you why it works. And there's always a mental, psychological part of it that many people overlook when you're talking about marketing and branding. The status label feels like an identity upgrade and not an upcharge. That's why that part of it works. People will read things subliminally, and it just actually just happened to someone that I know. I was in Manhattan and Harlem over the weekend visiting some clients by way of Connecticut, and flew into Connecticut. Spent some time with family. Did some work there. That Saturday, that was Friday. Saturday, drove to Manhattan, met with clients, ended up having dinner with clients in Harlem, and we had a great time. And we had a conversation about upgrades, and the talk was similar to tiering, and they were more so geared towards sponsorship packages and what are the rule of thumb, around that. And so those are all things that we can keep in mind, as far as label, give a status label to almost everything that you put out from a marketing standpoint, and always lead with the outcome. What is the outcome, right? And so when people are beginning, when they see that particular part, when they experience that particular part, they're looking at things as far as being upgrades, right? And not upcharges. Upgrades benefit them. Upcharges doesn't benefit them. They just feel like, okay, I'm paying this particular rate of something that I don't even feel good about. And so all of that will begin to change. When you do that, you'll be able to expect higher self-selection into premium pricing. Now, we just spoke about S is set the standard, O is outcome first framing, the F is future paced boundaries, the T is tiered naming. So that's soft. Now let's now this acronym is soft power. All right, we're injecting soft power. So the P signifies proof and pre-decisions. Now, this is where our goal is to get our clients to say it is worth every penny. And Also for them to say uh, the average time of the first win was, so many amount of days, not weeks or months. So that is a part of of why people will pay the premium pricing if they know that the price proximity and this, which is directly above or immediately after. And when we give them that social proof, that is going to help reduce all of the friction, that we have, and everyone always asking, okay, can I get 10% or that's the price or what do I get, along with that? So when we do that, we give that proof, we'll be able to expect less ghosting and faster deposits. Now, the O in power, the first O, is options that protect you. Now, you have two choices here. You can either have a priority window, which is a start, a faster start, or you can have an option where you can have what's called the signature, which is the standard. Now, when you do that, you'll be able to adjust your pricing along with that as well. So when you inject that, you will be able to expect fewer custom ask and a cleaner pipeline, along with that. The W in power is the warm word that carries the price. You want to swap out these uh, payment verbs to use, secure, reserve, confirm, join the window. When you creating all of these buttons for people to take action, you don't want to use certain things such as log, pay now, buy now. Those particular call to actions are call to actions that make people feel like they're getting the short end of the stick. When we reframe these call to actions, where it makes the buyer feel like they're being thought about, that changes the game within it all, and that's a part of the overall soft power protocol that I have created that I'm sharing with you right now. Now, the E in power is ethical urgency. Ethical urgency. And this is when you have a calendar based scarcity, where you may say, hey, you may give a may say something similar, or as an example, 3 starts to protect outcomes. Now, when you use these particular urgency base, you want to be ethical about it. You want to be ethical about it. If it's going to take 3 particular ways to do something, make sure that it's 3, and not saying that it's 3 simply to close a deal and it ends up being 13 different different outcomes that need to be injected in order to make this whole thing work. Now, when you want to start that urgency, that ethical urgency, immediately after the options. Now, because if you don't do it, you'll drive the urgency. The urgency begins to feel professional, with it, and not something that's simply performative. And so, ethical urgency. And when you do that, you can expect um, fewer people that's just, hey, I'm just out getting pricing, kicking the tires, as they say. But these are buyers who are intentional and they know exactly what they want. Now, the R in power is risk reframe. Risk reframe. Now, this is a fit first safety. And an example of that, if we're not in a match, I'll say so and point you right. So If if this we're going to respect our own boundaries now. And if this is not a match, a good fit for you as a service provider, as the product provider, as the business owner, let them know we're not a match. However, I know someone who is, and now I'm going to point you into the right direction. And when you do that, when do you do that? You do that after you've listened, after you've given your rates, and at the close. Give them the time to be able to talk and make that particular decision. If they are not the match, you simply, hey, thank you for considering us. I have someone else who could be a better match, for you. That is not the point to say and start negotiating with yourself, thinking about, okay, what kind of discount can I give? Respect your own boundaries. And when you do that, you're going to be able to expect more people to trust you. And the irony of it, you'll get more yeses when you do that. Some folks may leave, but turn back around and come back and say, hey, you know what? I need what you're telling me about. So if any of this is landing, with you and you're really feeling it, I want you to save this live. I see we're getting some softs already in the comments. Drop soft in the comment in the chat, and what I'll do is I'll make sure I DM you that one pager recap of this particular protocol, the S.O.F.T.P.O.W.E.R protocol. I'll send it to you directly. All right, so let's talk more about what, when, why, and expect. Let's do that with a little bit more clarity, of it all. Now, when you rewrite your pricing section and use that S.O.F.T.P.O.W.E.R protocol that I just shared with you, you're going to identify first. You're going to identify, deliver one outcome. You're going to ensure that you have your boundaries, in place. You're going to include 2 status tiers, and then you're going to closing out with some warm words. Now, this is what I want you to create. Now, I want you to do this tomorrow morning. Before you even start up any type of negotiations, let's get your pricing structure set up first and your platforms done later. All right. Let's set the pricing first. If you go back and take a look at one of the WinsDay Evening Encores, I talked about, I can't remember the actual name of the topic of the session, but I talked about selling before the product is even created. Right? Selling before your product is even created. And that is not unethical. Reason I say that is because every particular individual is going to have a different type of challenge. And even though you have your framework, your outcome may be different for that particular individual. So, because we're going to assume that everyone on here, what you're doing, you're a professional at it, you're skilled at it, you have good outcomes. Now, we're talking about that particular part. We're not talking about the folks who are scamming, the folks who are, doing things or saying they can do something and can't provide, which is a lot of that going on out here in this world, out here in these internet streets, in these coaching streets. So we do have to vet out, and we want to make sure that we're being ethical about it. That's incredibly important. So when we do this, we can expect that our pricing starts to go along with with how much time we're putting into a product. It will help to build our own confidence, as a entrepreneur, especially when we're targeting this towards our women-owned founders, our women-owned brands, and help you to increase your confidence. It will help you with your reputation, as well. By injecting that S.O.F.T.P.O.W.E.R protocol, It's going to compound that trust and compound that cash flow. And ask any particular finance person about compounding cash flow. That's what we want. And this is what this soft power protocol is going to help you to be able to do. You can expect shorter calls, higher conversions, better clients who respect your rhythm, and a revenue fit that you're going to be excited about because you're being paid something that you could be excited about, and you're giving, and your outcome or the deliverables that you are promising that you're able to do. So let's push more about the wins, right? Let's talk more about the wins, the power moves. Now, when you inject or start to use that soft power protocol, soft power protocol, soft power pricing protocol, I'm gonna put some respect into that name. Soft power pricing protocol. There's some power moves that you can expect. One of them I'm gonna label as the velvet reveal. And this is what the velvet reveal is gonna look like. Um, for instance, it could look like, give you an example. This is for founders who are stepping into premium rooms. Now, this is the reveal that we used for the brand photographer that I was speaking to you about. And this is some messaging that we created for her. And so the message we created for her is that this is for the founders who are stepping into premium rooms. Now think about that. You really have to think about that and 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 repeat it in your brain. This is for founders who are stepping into premium rooms. Now, all entrepreneurs, everyone who's looking at being successful, want to step into premium rooms. Now, with that type of soft power word and a description of it all, who wouldn't want to purchase that particular product? This is what I need. I want to step into premium rooms. That's my plan, to step into some premium rooms. All right. Now, the next part of that was most see the first visible shift within 10 days. Now, remember, we want to be ethical with this. When we put a number, we want to be ethical with it. So that was the next part of that velvet reveal. Most people see most see the first visible shift within 10 days. Your priority window is, let's say, October 7th through the 18th. And that engagement is $4,800. Shall we reserve your window? See how smooth that was? Now I'm gonna read that particular reveal of how you're reframing and what we use for the photographer brand client who we help to reframe her messaging. This is for founders stepping into premium rooms. Most see the first visible shift within 10 days. Your priority window is October 7th through the 18th. And that engagement, we didn't say price, we didn't say rate. He said that engagement is $4,800. Shall we reserve your window? Now, let me tell you why that works. You give identity, you give an outcome, you give a boundary, you give a price, and you give a gracious close. Who's going to say no to that? Who's going to say no to that? Now, the next power move is going to be the one that I call the calm no. The calm no. Now, after you do that reveal, and for some reason, someone just simply can't pay that particular $4,800. What there are going to be times when you may have to say no. And how do you say that? by keeping calm. We're going to call it the calm no. Let me give you an example of how that could sound. This isn't a fit for the budget you're imagining. So here's a focus alternative that protects your runway. It's still, you're not making that individual feel like they are cheap or, broke or anything. Like, you still leaving them with the respect. You're leaving them in a way that's lifted, as well. And these are all important because the way you leave that particular individual, they may not be ready for you at that particular point, but when they are, they need to be coming back to you, paying you that 4,800 bucks, or whatever your rates are, you know, at that particular point. Now, let me tell you why that works. That shows your boundary, that shows your authority, and that your authority, you have an authority that's without edge. And that is where you become a trusted filter and not a vendor. Because the moment you shift and state that you do something that's outside of your pricing, you got to really think about what's beginning to happen and trigger into that other individual's mind. They're getting to a point of, oh, wow, can that person really be trusted? You know? So these are all things that we have to keep in mind when we are as part of our power moves and micro wins. So we talked about the velvet reveal, the calm no. There are a few other things that I'm going to give away for those of you who have commented as far as soft or blueprint. We're going to inject all of that into it. Now, let's talk about that two-tiered button. Now, we always want to have a couple of tiers of, we may have what's called the signature tier, right? And then we may have what's something that we may call the reserve, right? The reserve may be that premium. The signature may be that standard, as well. So we may have those two tiers that are named that. So let's talk about those tiers for a moment. Now, when we create those tiers and those buttons to confirm that, what kind of buttons? How are we labeling those buttons? Are we nudging them to pay? Are we just saying, "Hey, pay here now"? How are we taking them on that particular journey? Once they get into our ecosystem, into that funnel, and how are we treating them along the way? How are we talking to them along the way? How are we respecting them along the way? Um, instead of saying, "Hey, pay here now," uh, perhaps think about using some some copy that says, "Reserve your priority window now," or "Join the signature cohort," as well. So why does that work? Because they're warm verbs, and they also include some identity cues, and they're simply some gentle nudges into premium. And that's where we're all headed to. We're headed to that. Now, we use that same exact soft power pricing protocol into a client. And then one of the clients came back to me and said, "Hey, this pricing thing felt easy." Once they begin to follow it and start to understand what it is that we're doing and why these things work and what to expect, the pricing part felt easy. And they felt good about the pricing and they were charging. So let's talk about more of the gateway now. We talked about use going the gateway and not the features. Remember we spoke about people, the brain is buying the bridge, not the planks that make up the bridge. Keep that particular thought in mind. When you keep that part in mind, that the brain is buying the bridge because they have an outcome where they're looking to get to. That bridge is the way they're going to get to. They're not really caring about, okay, how much all these planks cost, what makes up and everything else. They're buying the bridge because they have a place they want to get to. So keep that part in mind because the planks are the features that make up the outcome. So you see, hopefully that makes sense as far as how all of this is coming together and how you can inject some simple language to reframe some language into your particular offering starting tomorrow morning and start selling. I can't wait to hear about how much how much you started to sell as a result of some simple reframe injecting some of the information that you're learning here this particular episode. So you were taught to be agreeable. You were taught to be agreeable, and then the world rewarded you for accommodation. They really did. They did reward you for it. However, the queens, and you are a queen, charge where they celebrate, not for what they can defend. And that's what many of you have been doing is defending what your rate is instead of celebrating it. So I'm going to offer you two clean steps that you can take. One, I offer it every week. I only set aside 2 to 3 sessions per week. Is a complimentary 15-minute brand blueprint session. You don't need a credit card. There's no catch. There's no spill. There's no pitch, at all. However, you're going to leave that particular session with lots of clarity, and you also leave with a personalized brand blueprint, and also we're going to even include if you take advantage of this particular one, we'll even include in that soft power pricing block mapped. It's all going to be mapped out for you. Now, remember, I only hold 2 to 3 spots per week, and so that I can stay hands on. I like to follow you through your particular course. Now, remember, I only work with women who finish where they start. That's it. No ifs, ands, or buts. So when you do that, you'll have now some of you may require some more hands-on, and we have a wonderful. We're about to release a year-end brand audit checklist. It's going to be phenomenal. We're working on it now. I'm excited about it. And this is going to help you to be able to find your leaks fast so that you can start off 2026 in a way that's going to be dynamic than anything you've ever experienced before in your particular brand. All right. So I really appreciate all of you tune in. We have some wonderful engagement. Thank you for the comments. I've gotten comments on IG, and we got some other comments on another app that's also we're going live on as well. And so please follow, share, save, turn on notifications, and also remember to comment soft for that one pager, comment blueprint. If you want that particular spot of that 15-minute session. And next week, actually, before I do that, I want to make sure I screen shoot everyone who are asking about different sessions to make sure I don't miss anyone. Okay. There we go. Let's see. Make sure we don't miss anyone. All right. So next week, I'm going to go ahead and tease it. I do my best to stay a week ahead, so that I can go ahead and have plan and share with you what next week is going to be about. And I've done that again. So next Wednesday evening encore, we're going to talk about now. All of these particular episodes are created as a result of conversations that I'm having out here in this entrepreneurial world, working with woman-owned brands. And these are some of the challenges that many of them are having. And so I decided to, hey, I'm gonna present this in 2 episodes, and so because others may be having some of the same challenges. So next week we'll talk about the client spotlight system. Make your client feel like the star, and your brand is the director. So we want to make our clients feel like celebrities, and so making them feel good as well, and making while they're paying that credit card, they feel good and excited about it because they're looking at what the outcome is going to be about. Client spotlight system. Make your client the star, and your brand and your business is the director. So next Wednesday, we'll turn your clients into compelling proof, without any type of awkward ask. You're going to learn to direct the spotlight of your client story to sell for you, to sell for you. So all my woman-owned, my founders, woman-owned brands and businesses, I hope that you have learned on this particular episode to price like the woman that you are becoming. You know, speak it calmly, and create your success right now. So thank you for tuning in to this episode of Wednesday Evening Encore. I am your host, Christopher D. Thomas. And until next time, have a great one.